Hey guys, what's up? It's Will and John back once again. The MMA Huddle is here for another pay-per-view. Some more big title fights as the UFC head back to UFC Fight Island in Yas Island, Abu Dhabi. So we've got the middleweight, we've got the light heavyweight titles on the line here, and a card which is pretty much based off those two. And then it kind of takes a little bit of a fall off, but it's all those fights are kind of the filler before the two big fights at the top there. So I'm looking forward to really getting in and speaking about those fights. Before we send you over to John and see how he is, just hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. I apologise for not being on last week. My old ass fell asleep when we were supposed to do it, and I woke up and had a migraine. And yeah, last week was just a rough week. If you know what went on last week, you'll know last week was a rough week for me, just all across the board. So we're back here, though, for another pay-per-view. We've got another run of fights in Fight Island for the next 5 weeks. Going to be big fights every card on this little stint here. But like I said, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, drop a comment in the section down below with your picks for this card, if you've got any bets, DraftKings plays, whatever it may be, just your own opinions on the fights. Just get in there and let your comments flow out there, and hopefully some people will start to interact, and we can get some chat about this great sport going. So, John, good card at the weekend, really good card, really good fights, really entertaining fights, some great finishes, and we're moving over to Fight Island. I said this to you beforehand, like I'm really interested to see how they're going to do the whole Fight Island thing again, compared to when they moved back to Vegas and the fight's fallen off, and everybody seeming to test positive for COVID-19. Now we go back to Abu Dhabi where nothing really happened last time. How do you think it plays out? How are you, first of all? And we'll get into the fight card as soon as we're seeing how you are.
I'm good, but I could be better if my Chargers had got a win this weekend against the Chiefs. My young quarterback made it slip there. You boys got the win, so you know it's a good start to the NFL. But 1-1 for us boys, I'm happy with that. And it was great seeing some of the other people who listen to the podcast give us their feedback on their teams that they support as well in the comments last time, so feel free to let us know how you think the season's going. But bro, Fight Island, I think it's going to be a lot smoother before, because they do the testing at the airports before you even get over there as well, which is a great thing. So European fighters, even African fighters, all of them should be on standby. I think Graham Boylan is going to have a lot of his guys in Cage Warriors, because the Cage Warriors trilogy happening this week on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I think you'll have a absolute ton of those guys. If they do really well, I think you might have them guys. If they get out quick, they might try and stay on point for that card. So you might even see a couple of guys and a few more get signed up, especially the Mason Jones Adam Proctor fight. That's a huge one.
Yeah.
So do keep an eye out on that. The cards in general, they're absolutely superb. But yeah, it's been great that you all subscribe, and the new listeners and new followers. It's been fantastic seeing you all join in. And yeah, bro, I'm doing good. I'm just looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to the main, like you say, top two fights, because we see a change of guard at light heavyweight from John Jones stepping away to seeing what. I think we're going to see a couple of changes, in my opinion. I think we won't see someone sustain that belt for an extended period of time, because I feel like everyone below John Jones is all kind of, it's not too much of a difference between class in the standard of fighting. So I think we might see some exciting title fights coming up, and obviously, you know, you haven't got DC anymore, you haven't got your Gus there really, so you know, you had those three guys who kind of dominated that division for such a period of time. You didn't see any fresh blood coming along. I think it's going to be fun to see what happens with this belt now in the next, say, 2 years. You're going to see. I don't think we'll see a consistent number one guy on that belt. And obviously the main event is disgustingly good. Woo!
It's weird, like you're just talking about the light heavyweight belt there, and I was thinking it's one of those divisions where you'll have a champion that'll reign for a long time. Like, so they had Chuck Liddell for the longest time,
Yes.
had his belt, he kept it, and then it started to kind of jump to different people. It went to Rashad, then it went to Rampage, and
Lyoto,
Shogun, and then you had John Jones, who's had it for the past 10 plus years, and now you're going to have these new guys that are coming in who are going to, I'm like you, I think the belt's going to kind of jump around a little bit until someone comes and be dominant in that division, whoever that may be. But it's interesting. It's an interesting fight. I'm interested to see where the division goes with that one. And then obviously you've got the main event there, which is, in my opinion, I think it's my fight of the year. I've really been hyped and look forward to, and I've not really been talking about it too much because I just did not want anything to happen. So hopefully this week goes smooth and that fight kind of takes place, because it's the one I am looking forward to seeing. So getting into the card now, I think we've got 11 fights on tap here. I very much doubt there'll be anything added, but with the UFC, the way things have been going, you never know. I very much doubt it, though, with everything that we'll be doing in Abu Dhabi. But we're going to start off in the light heavyweight division. I was just talking about that there. We've got Khadis Ibragimov, who I'm pretty surprised they're actually keeping about here, against Danilo Marques, who... how this guy's got an opportunity in the UFC, I've no actual idea, but I'll send it over to you to get us started, John. How do you see this one going?
That's my thoughts on Danilo. I do not understand why they think he's even UFC caliber. I don't understand it. Even from market standpoint, he's Brazilian. I'm like, well, as Brazilian, they've got a ton of Brazilian fighters in there. I would have thought they'd like to put someone in there who's a bit more quality. Basically, he's not. Watching his fights, I was not overly impressed. So I'm thinking straight away, I'm not looking forward to this fight one little bit. I think Khadis, like you said, Will, he's not been overly impressive in his UFC tenure. I don't see much. Like, it's weird. Khadis outside UFC was on a great run, had a great bit of momentum. You thought, good, the guy's coming in. He's got good power. He'll put a bit of a show on. He's not been good at all, to be brutally honest with you. Danilo, yeah, I feel like his striking is really poor. Like, I don't think he's great striking. I've not saw his wrestling being anything overly hyped about. He likes to get like grappling, a bit of grappling aspects, so to speak. He's got some submission games on him, but he's not overly impressive with getting the takedowns. He's fought a lot of guys on the regional scene. He doesn't fight very often as well. He's been professional since 2014, so that's what. So in 6 years, he's had 11 fights or something like that. So he's averaging maybe maximum 2 a year. To get, and he's lost a couple of fights in that time as well, decisions as well, so where he just couldn't get his game plan off, and he gets picked apart on the feet. I'm going to go with Khadis in this one, because I think Khadis, because he gets that little the bum rush that he gets, the little kind of the start of the fight where he just unloads. I think he might catch Danilo. I think he actually might catch him. Yeah, I think he might be able to catch him and just kind of go full bore on him. Because obviously, he lost to Ed Herman. Suave fighter in the UFC, veteran. We've seen that Ed Herman's a pain in the ass, especially for Ben. And then Da Jung, that was awful because he just blew his load in the first 30 seconds. Like a 13-year-old lad touched himself for the first time. And then you had Roman, who's quality little fighter, you know what I mean? Roman, I believe he's a solid, legit addition to the UFC who sparked him with that. He was meant to be a head kick, but Khadis moved his head down into his knee kind of thing. He met the kick, so obviously empowered it a bit more, so it was, it messed his day up. But, Roman was patient in that fight. Khadis, to be credit to him, he was a bit more patient as well in that fight. I know he got caught later on, but he was a little bit more patient. But I'm going with Khadis here because I just feel like Danilo's not got anything that I can sit there that makes me think he's got a chance.
Yeah, like I started watching some fights in Marques, and I'm like, this dude's like fighting 0 and 21 guys, and like guys with a lot. I don't think he's fought anybody over like a 500 record. So he's fought everybody with like under a 500 record, which is not good. He's in his mid-30s. Like I say, he's not fought all that much, and he's like I say, I think I saw him in the corner Shogun fight, probably Shogun's last fight. Actually, I think I've seen him. So, but when I watched him, I wasn't really impressed. I think jiu-jitsu is probably where he wants to kind of get the fight to there. Even though you look at his record, he's got 4 wins by TKO, 4 wins by submission, and the one by decision. But he's facing Ibragimov here, who I'm surprised the UFC kept him about, but you have to look at that division. It's not exactly the most stacked, and they were always that guy that had a little bit of credence in when he came in at 8-0. He's lost 3 in a row. Had a couple of really kind of bad. I mean, I don't want to say it was bad against Dan Jung. He just came out there and he threw like a 100-punch combination in the first round, and about 4 punches landed, and he gassed himself out. So, and then Ed Herman just got the vet less in there, and Roman Dolidze is just a guy with a lot of power and very, very explosive, and it can take a lot of people out, I think. So I think this is a winnable fight for him. I think he can grapple. I think he can use that grappling this one here. Just try and fight smart. I don't think he can. So he will be open if he gasses, and then he could get knocked out. But just watching Marques, to me, I think that he's not a UFC caliber fighter, shouldn't be in this spot. So I'm going to pick Khadis Ibragimov. I'll take him via stoppage in that one there, via TKO. Moving up a division, light heavyweights, Juan Espino, a guy we've not seen for the longest time, makes his return. I kind of forgot all about him.
Yeah.
And back again, he won the Ultimate Fighter, obviously. I think he won... Is that his first fight?
Heavy hitters, yeah. His first fight since Tough Finale.
Yeah, so he won the show and then probably was living off his wins a little bit, and we've not seen him since. Went back to Spain and has been doing his thing there. He's 40 years old, so he's not a young fighter by any stretch of the imagination. So he really needs to start kind of making it count now, I think. Don't know what he's been up to, whether he's had injuries to deal with or whatever, but like I say, I've heard nothing. He faces off against Jeff Hughes, a guy that he might be kind of looking around and thinking that his head might be in the chopping block a little bit, and it might be something that, like I say, he might have to come out here and he's just fighting for his job, because, like I say, he's had 2 losses and a no contest in his last 3 fights. He's fought close. Maurice Green was a pretty close fight. Pessoa, he lost that one, in my opinion, pretty convincingly. He kind of let Pessoa take over that fight. To me here, I think he's a wrestler by trade, but Espino, to me, is the guy that's definitely going to look to get the fight to the ground, because that's where his skills lie. Really strong submission grappler. Can have some good wrestling grappling exchanges as well. On the feet, I don't really know who I'd favour more. I think they're both fairly sluggish. Maybe Espino just a little bit. I know that he kind of trains quite a bit out of American Top Team, but I don't think that's probably been going on this year. So I'm interested to see how Espino looks, but I'm going to pick him in this spot, even though he's been out for coming on nearly 2 years. I think once he gets it to the ground, his submission skills are pretty good for a big guy. So I'll take Juan Espino via submission in that one there.
Yeah, it's super interesting to see what he comes out like. Like, say, 2 years, he could have done quite a bit of work on his boxing. We don't know. Jeff Hughes, for me, I feel like he's a guy who's just too much of a short heavyweight. I feel like he's always short to the punches. I feel like he's just not maybe as athletic on the feet enough as well. Like, I see Hughes and Boza as similar physiques, and I think Boza's just a smarter, quicker heavyweight. And I think for me, Jeff Hughes, a little bit heavier on the feet, which should do well for him when Juan goes for the takedowns. But Juan's got that height advantage and the length, and he's quite long with his arms. I feel he can get the grappling aspect and do the trips, outside leg trips, inside sweeps, stuff like that, to get the fight to the ground. On the feet, yeah, it will be one of them ones where I think it will be a bit sloppy. Jeff Hughes is tough. He takes a hit well, and he keeps going. But at the same time, I think when Jeff Hughes gets on his back, he's going to have a rough time, and I think I'd be surprised if he can keep it standing for 3 full rounds. I'm going Juan with his submission win as well, because I think when he gets guys on the ground, he's good at transitioning from, say, for example, guard, half guard, side control, mount, etc. He's got a nice little grappling kind of transition there. Heavy top game, good submission attempts, and he's threatening with the submission so often as well. I think we get a submission win here for Espino, but it's weird. 40 years old. He's not, he's young in his MMA career, so to speak, but I feel like he's got a lot of catching up to do. And at heavyweight, it's not the easiest thing to do, because fighting often is not easy at heavyweight, because you're just getting hit by absolute tanks. So yeah, I'll go submission win as well, bro. Yeah. So
moving back down to the light heavyweight division here, we've got one of the kind of newest entrants into the UFC here, coming off the Dana White Contender Series, fought like 3-4 weeks ago. He's getting flown over to Abu Dhabi, so that's a massive thing, considering fighting all your fights in America and then you're going to this place, which, to be fair, from what I've heard from fighters that were there before, that they're getting treated like amazingly over there, which is actually pretty nice to hear. So it's William Knight against Aleksa Camur here. 2 guys pretty young in their career, both kind of green in my opinion. How do you see this one kind of playing out?
William Knight is a specimen.
Yes,
one way to describe him. But the problem with all that size, you need a lot of oxygen to feed it. And I think it showed in his fights. You know, his output is down. He doesn't have... You know, I know he got his win against Cody. He also fought in Contender Series. Spit that one out again, John. When he fought Chewbacca, something like that.
Aleksa, yeah.
Aleksa, there you go. And in that fight, he wasn't the guy. He was getting hit quite a bit. He was getting quite hurt in the first 2 rounds. He was getting in the start of the first round and the start of the second round. He's just he's like a Hector Lombard. He's a light heavyweight Hector Lombard. 2 foot tall, 6 foot wide, and just throws heavy. But he is beatable. In the style in which he fights, you keep on the outside, you throw jabs, right straights, you just keep it down the pipe. He doesn't have head movement. He just takes it on his face because he's got no neck, so he just holds. It just takes the punch because he's got nothing there. His neck won't bounce back. His head won't bounce back. And Aleksa, he's athletic. He's got grappling. He will be, using this. He's an enthusiastic kid. Aleksa Camur, he's the Ledet fight as well. Ledet had a far better boxing. Ledet is a far more accomplished striker, but Aleksa had good striking in that fight, landed some good punches, and I think he can get the win here. I think with Knight, you get him to the ground, you start the grapple, that really takes the pop out of his punches. It really has an effect on him. Guys are obviously cautious about getting in close to him, but William Knight, for me, he looks like a very beatable opponent. He's not been in the sport long. He's only been in the sport professionally about 18 months, not training for that long. But I don't think he's knowledgeable enough. I think if you might get experienced guys who'll stop him, but Aleksa here, if you can just use the jabs, engage William Knight into the striking, grapple him, get him to the ground, get him on his back. William Knight uses natural strength to get up. You can't do that 3 rounds all the time against guys who are 220, 230 pounds. That's hard work. That's a lot of power you're using. It takes the sting out your punches. It takes away keeping your hands up as well. When you're not keeping your hands up, you're getting popped in the face. If I'm at Aleksa, I'm jabbing to the face, jab to the body, just hit that tank, work out the body kicks, and then just get into the ground. I just see William Knight as very green. He's beatable. I'm going to go with Aleksa Camur here. I think hopefully the kid can be smart enough to beat him.
I see this being really close. I was kind of on the Knight side a little bit for a while, but then I was watching just when the little one was at nursery today. I had a chance to watch some more fights, and William Knight, he kind of reminds me like the Derek kind of Lewis type prototype, where he can be in really bad positions and then can just absolutely explode from those bad positions and be in a position where he can stop the fight. So the UFC obviously seen something in him after he won his first Contender Series fight. They gave him a development contract. He went out there, won a couple of fights, lost to in Chukwe, who's now signed with the UFC. He's another guy 4-0, who's an absolute powerhouse with really pinpoint striking. I'm looking forward to seeing that guy fight because he reminds me.
There was a questionable stoppage as well. Do you remember? Because he went to put his hand down, the referee saying you were out, and I was like, I think he was rocked, but I wasn't sure if I would have stopped it at that point. But like you say, Will, he did lose the fight too.
Yeah. And then you kind of watch the Rocky Edwards fight. I don't take much away. What I'll take away from a couple of fights from William Knight is the fact that he's went into the 3rd round and he's found the killer blows, and that kind of reminds me of a Derek Lewis type situation where he could be losing the fight and then he could just one shot can really turn it around. The Cody Brundage fight, he literally fought away back in the 1st of September. So not even 3 weeks ago. He was in a really bad spot. Cody Brundage was another guy, super green at this point. Got into a bad position, managed to explode out, and then just stopped him with elbows and punches. So, to me, I've kind of moved over to the Camur side as well. I was super impressed with his debut against Ledet. Now, Ledet's a seasoned boxer. He outstruck him. He was a more varied striker. And like I say, he's had less fights than what William Knight has. But he earned his contract by coming through the Dana White Contender Series as well. So, this is an interesting one. I do think it could be close in this fight initially, but I think Aleksa's got more kind of tools and path to victory. I think that if William Knight doesn't explode and hit him with a big shot, then I think Camur can really pick him apart, have more output, and win the fight through that. So I'm going to take Aleksa Camur for the win here. I think that can win a competitive decision. He might even get a stoppage if he can find the right position on the ground there. One of my fights to watch in this entire fight card, down in the featherweight division, we've got Shane Young against Ľudovít Klein, who is a guy that I've had my eye on for many years. Came across him through the Cage Warriors day where he actually lost that fight. But I've had a close eye on him since then. And, I mean, the guy's put together a really nice run of fights since then. Some real highlight finishes. If you go into YouTube, put this guy's name out there, you will see, I think his last 4 to 5, 6 fights are on there. And you will see some explosive knockouts, like really big, bad knockouts. So I'd advise you to go and watch that if you've got the opportunity. 16-2 record, the first guy out of Slovakia to fight in the UFC. Mid-20s, very patient striker. Will sit back, will pick his shots, will kind of flick the right hand, but throws a beautiful straight left hand. I mean, he lost that fight to Aiden Lee, but then he decided, right, I'm going to go and try and get some help with his grappling. Went over to Tiger Muay Thai, where the Hickman brothers are there, great wrestlers himself. Now, I still don't think his wrestling's great. I don't think his grappling's great. I've seen him being put at his back. I've seen him being controlled a little bit. Against the fence, he's being controlled. But once he's in open distance, and he's got a clear path to victory, like clear path for his shots, he picks them very well. Like I say, that left hand is beautiful. I've seen him knock out guys with like that straight left hand down the pipe. And I was looking at this matchup thinking, right, okay, how's this kind of playing out here? Shane Young's not really a guy that likes to grapple. He'll do a little bit to push against the cage and land some strikes there, but he's a guy that absorbs a lot of punishment, takes a lot of shots, likes to kind of really stand in there and exchange a little bit. And I think he could have some success with maybe catching a leg, pushing the fight against the cage, winning some of the spots there. But I think in open distance, the more precise, accurate striker, I think with heavy power, is Klein, in my opinion. I really enjoyed what I've seen in his previous few fights. Even the ones before that, I looked at his losses. I mean, he lost Aiden Lee via submission, and Aiden had a body triangle in that fight. He just could not get out of, reversed the position, but the body triangle was so tight, he just couldn't get out, and then he got caught there with a really solid rear naked choke. There was a fight back I think it was 3 or 4 before that, where he got knocked out with like just a counter left hook, which I don't know whether Shane Young's got the type of power to do that. But to me, he's super hittable, and I think that's going to play into an accurate, like pinpoint striker like Klein. And he hides that high kick well. He's got like 4 or 5 high kick knockouts that you should really check out. So he's a good kicker. He can also vary those shots to the body and really heavy low kicks as well. I'm picking Ľudovít Klein here. I don't know whether he knocks him out, but I think over the space of 15 minutes, I think he can land the more damaging blows. I can see maybe a path to victory if Shane Young can maybe tie him up a little bit and maybe land in the clinch or so on. But I've seen him in the clinch, Klein in the clinch with nice elbows, nice knees up the middle, nice footwork. He's very light and bouncy on his feet. I like what I see from Ľudovít Klein here, and I'm going to pick him. I think there's an opportunity to knock out. I think he wins the decision, though.
I am gutted, though, that Nate tested positive, because I think Shane and Nate would have been a tremendous war. Not a lot of technique, just 2 men knocking 7 bells out of each other. And I think the UFC had got that didn't happen. I was freaking gutted, because that was probably like number 3 on my fight on the card, and that was number 3 fight for me. I thought that was just going to be pure violence. One of them's going to sleep, and you didn't know who, because both of them get hit. But now it changes a bit. Shane's still very hittable. That part doesn't change, but he's fighting a guy who's, like you said, Will. I've only had a chance, because I've been tied up most of the weekend with when I found out there was the fight changed. I've only had a chance to watch one of his fights. And like you say, he's just a very patient fighter. He just assesses his opponent, looks for the gaps, looks for the tells, and then he starts to implement his strikes with his jabs and his straight punches, and just finds those gaps. And with his head kick, like you say, well, what he's got is a lovely smooth transition on the hips, which disguise the type of kick he's throwing, so it looks the same as the leg kick as much as the head kick. The hips don't change too much. He's got a slight flick of the hip, and it just absolutely devastating. I think, though, that Shane Young here needs to keep the fight close if he's going to win. He can't. Austin Arnett should have won. It was beyond me how he lost that fight. Austin Arnett was picking him apart, but then let Shane get close and didn't reset to the center of the cage and let the fight and punch land, let the punches land, then they cut to the grappling start side of it. And I think in this fight for Klein, he just has to reset, land strikes, circle off, get back to the center of the ring, and he seems the kind of striker that could do it. I think he's with Arnett. He was admiring his strikes against Shane Young that we landed, and he looked very confident, but he just let the fight get away. I think Ľudovít Klein here, as long as he's patient, lands those strikes, he'll piece up Shane Young. Second, third round, that head kick will start to open up, because especially when he starts throwing those leg kicks and body kicks, those hands drop a little, head kicks there. I'm going to go for Ľudovít Klein only because I just feel like Shane Young's too hittable. He doesn't move his head enough. He doesn't use his footwork to get out of range enough. I feel like he takes a hit to get a hit. And Ľudovít Klein just seems a far more calmer striker. So I'm going to go with... I haven't looked at enough tape study, but I am going Ľudovít Klein because I feel like Shane Young is the kind of guy who's going to go in there. He'll win a fight, lose a fight. And I think he lost the fight to Arnett. If Arnett had done a little bit more, and I feel here Ľudovít's going to do the right thing with a patient this kind of breakdown of Shane Young.
Yeah, what I will say is as well, because I think about I was pretty much just talking about Klein. Shane Young, to be fair, he can keep a good pace throughout the fight, and he can land at a kind of high clip as well. So that's something that could win him the fight. You have seen a little bit of grappling out of him. I mean, he took down Volkanovski very briefly. He took down Rolando D and hit him with some nice shots down there. But like when I watched that Arnett fight, I'm thinking, and I'm looking at the signatures and everything now, and it's like that was a closer fight than that kind of it made like the stats really kind of play out. Arnett was landing some good shots. He was landing combination strikes, and it's like Shane Young really comes alive in the last minute of the fight. Of the rounds, I should say. And then in the third round, he dropped him, and Arnett got up and he was swearing, effing and blind. He kind of thought he might have gave the fight away. But I thought that fight was a lot closer than the kind of stats and provided. I thought 120 strikes was maybe a little bit too many for Young, but like I say, it's a good fight. I just like the precision of Klein. I think that he's got more and more dangerous weapons that can stop the fight, and I think that if Shane Young doesn't, I think he has to mix up. I think he has to grab a hold of a single leg, push him against the cage, look to try and get a takedown. He's not really a takedown kind of guy. I really like that fight. I like the Klein pick, and I'm looking forward to kind of watching that in the prelims this weekend, I should say. Welterweight division. My guy is against Jake Matthews here. Everybody knows he was my guy, but like I say, he's on his last couple of fights. Thankfully, I think that I do actually kind of think he maybe needs to kind of walk away from the sport, and because I think the longer he stays in it, he's getting more crazy, and But how do you kind of see this one going down?
Look, he is, he's got his little girl, and you think to yourself, dude, you need to step away, like you say, Will. I think he'll be in coaching. You know, I think it's something Diego would never give up. I think he's, it's a part of him. I think he'll probably be with, he'll be a part of the coaching side of things in some facet. He'll still be involved in the sport. But I'm glad that he's, like you say, Will, he's finally starting to say, you know what, I think it's probably time to step away. Because if you think about it, maybe a year ago, he said, I'm going for a title run. For the I think he's like title run for the welterweight thing, and kind of everyone was like, you want to sit yourself down, rein yourself in, lad. And then he got he got a tremendous win against Pereira. He was phenomenal in that fight. If you've not seen the breakdown of him doing his breakdown of the fight about all the punches he evaded, go on his Instagram. There's little video clips of it. They're tremendous. But Jake Matthews, he's fighting a young kid. I think you're fighting a more mature Jake Matthews. I think it's a good fight for Jake here. I think the UFC know what they're doing. I think Jake Matthews, young kid still in the welterweight division, he's starting to look a lot better in that class. He will get a feather in his cap. I think Diego will have a tough time trying to get the fight to the ground if he does it that way. Plus, after the last fight you saw with Diego, with the hand movement, this wax on, wax off, parrying of the punches, Jake Matthews' kind of style, he likes to get a bit dirty, he likes a bit of grinding, so he likes to get a bit close. He'll throw the strikes, he'll get in close, bit of grappling aspect on the cage. And Jake, if I'm Jake, I might even try to get Diego down and get him on his back to land strikes. You don't know no one's overly confident on Diego's chin anymore. Definitely a bit war-torn. Jake's in good nick. Man, I find it hard to see where Diego's going to get the fights these days and where he's going to get the wins, unless he gets another illegal blow and just takes the W with another illegal knee or groin shot. And hey, it's a veteran move, but I've got to go Jake Matthews, man. I think Jake's got a bit more these days about him than Diego has. Diego's a vet. He's smart, don't get me wrong, but this isn't like a Craig White fight for Diego. This is a different outfit, a different opponent, and I think Jake Matthews should be able to get a victory here. And I think he could probably stop Diego at some point if he really put the effort into it. And I'm going to go with Diego via the illegal knee is what's going to happen again. He's going to somehow get that to happen. He'll get the win. No messing. Jake Matthews, stoppage, second, third round possibly, after he gets the tell on Diego in the first.
Yeah. You're not going to see me picking Diego in this spot. Yeah, I don't think he should be fighting at the welterweight. Like, he's fighting big guys up there, but at least he's not killing himself to kind of make the weight, so it's maybe a bit more comfortable for him. Coming off a win over Michel Pereira, where he looked outgunned. I mean, Pereira's massive for that division, first of all. He's humongous. And you see him once he puts it all together and he can fight composed, that he's actually a bit of a handful. But I mean, he is one of the legends. I think one of the living legends in the UFC, and I know he's been around for 15 years. It's going to be interesting. He's got Stephen Bonner in his corner for this one, and
brilliant, love it.
Yeah.
Wrestling. I only Stephen Bonner, so
I know, but he's actually got an actual fighter or someone that's actually did something in the sport in his corner this time instead of that absolute weirdo that he's got in there. That's I can't remember his name, Josh Fabio or something like that. But yeah, I mean, he's won 3 of his last 4. Beat Mickey Gall, beat Craig White, got the win over Pereira, even though that's not great. But yeah, when it lines up here, Jake Matthews he's obviously a lot faster. I think if he can pick the right shot, he can knock out Diego. And he's seen in the Ackman fight that he was picking his shots really well. Ackman was really not throwing all that much back. And he was just really kind of picking him apart with his shots. Emil Mek was just smart. How do you fight Emil Mek? He cannot stop a takedown. So you take him to the ground, and that's what he did 4 times. He passed guard a few times and just fought a smart fight. I think here, the whole thing with this, though, is like when you're fighting a legend, because when you look at who he's fought, he's never really fought anybody that's in this kind of like legend territory. Like, you get these fights, so like we're talking about Stevie Ray and all the best to him with his retirement, but Joe Lozon, and you get those type of fights there where you can get those opportunities. This is his kind of first opportunity where he's facing a guy that's been around. I mean, how old is Jake Matthews?
21, 22, I reckon, or maybe
1994, so he's just turned 26.
Oh, 26, bloody hell.
Yeah, so he was 11 years old when Diego Sanchez first started fighting the UFC. It's crazy. It's an absolute crazy start, that. And yeah, I've got Jake Matthews here. I think he'll be a little bit too polished, but he might just give him Diego a little bit too much respect, and maybe let Diego kind of keep this fight a little bit closer than it should. But Jake Matthews should really plough through him here and get him out of there. But Diego will show his toughness as he always does. Could get to decision. I've got Jake Matthews for the win in that one there. But as always, hopefully Diego brings it home. But that's just forever a fan, and me just waiting for that to come through. Where are we now? I've lost my track of thought here. Brad Riddell, Alex de Silva. Really fun fight this could be, because Brad Riddell to me has shown that he's got a little bit of grit. That last fight actually for Brad Riddell actually showed me a lot, that I was kind of surprised a little bit, because I thought Riddell's going to be a good guy in the UFC. I thought if they give him the right fights, but Mustafayev is really tough. And I mean, how you're going to beat someone like Brad Riddell is taking him down, and even when you take him down, it's still not convincing, because on the feet he lands power strikes and he can hurt you loads of opportunities. And in the Malarkey fight, I mean, the thing is with that, he's a guy that kind of fights blood and guts, because he can take a hit, he can get dropped, he can get back to his feet. I mean, that Malarkey fight is one in recent memory in the last couple of years, is one of my fights the last couple of years. It's a great back and forward fight. Riddell lands on a high clip of Malarkey, he stays in it, but he hurts Brad Riddell a couple of times in that fight, gets some takedowns, some spots with submissions. And now I think he's got someone in the Silva here who's more of a kind of pure striker. And this could lead to some fireworks in this fight here. So I'm interested to see kind of how this one goes. I'm leaning Brad Riddell because I think there's going to be a little bit more progression. What I like about this fight card in general is the fact that we've got Izzy's kind of gym. I forgot the name of the gym, City Kickboxing Gym. They're all there's like 4 of them on this card, so they're all going to be peaking together, and they're a very close-knit gym as it is. So having something like that is, in my opinion, a very good thing for every one of those fighters that's on the card here. Riddell, to me, has shown that he can, every fight, if he can continue to make a progression, he's going to become a star over in that spot over in New Zealand and Australia, and I think fans in America will take to him very, very easily. De Silva, okay kind of overall kickboxer, but I think Riddell's tougher. So for me, I like Brad Riddell in this one. I think he could get a stoppage. So I'm going to take Brad Riddell via stoppage in this one here.
Yeah, I love the matchup. I think Brad looked great in his last fight as well, Will. What impressed me, like you say, was the grappling aspect. Because he was good with I know he was good with the takedown defense, considering the circumstance that he was in. I thought he was just going to get wrestled to the ground and that was it. He wasn't going to get up again. But when he was, there was gaps and opportunities. He did fantastic. And Mustafayev just looked like he didn't have the answer, and he couldn't figure it out. And Liddell was landing some great shots. I think here, Alex de Silva, he's a nice striker. He's landing some good shots. But here, for me, Riddell, with his kickboxing, Muay Thai background, I think this is perfect for him. Because he's not going to have to worry too much about a takedown attempt from Alex de Silva, unless Alex de Silva is potentially feeling worried or hurt. He'll shoot in for a potential takedown. But here, I think Brad's going to have the opportunity to land some clean kind of kickboxing Muay Thai. He'll feel a lot more relaxed in the sense that he can throw the leg kicks without the fear of the takedown attempt coming towards him on the return side, on the return path. I think you'll see Brad really just take Alex apart, and he'll get hit, don't get me wrong, but his conditioning through the roof. Was in great shape. Even in that fight, he had a great output in the third round. Still, I think Riddell here should get, if he doesn't stop De Silva, decision win, I think a 30-27 or a stoppage in the fight.
So, moving on to the main card now, we're starting off with a banger. This is a really good fight as well, one of the better fights in the card. Hakeem Dawodu against Zubaira Tukhugov. 2 guys that are kind of surging up the division. I think Dawodu's finding his feet. Tukhugov showing that he's dangerous. You cannot sit back and think this guy hasn't got power because he throws fight-ending power. We've seen that last time out. Who have you got in this spot here?
Tough fight for me to break down when I was watching it as well, because I thought you've got a guy in Hakeem who's got legit cracking striking, powerful shots, who's growing, as like you said, Will, he's starting to get his feet in the division, starting to work on the little holes in his game that maybe we're standing out a bit. And then Tukhugov, who, like we saw Laurent Murphy fight, for example, in theory, on paper, everyone was like, walk in the park, that. And we saw holes in his game. And I thought, oof. And then obviously he got the fight against Aguilar, who got a win there, kudos to that, but you can't really look too much at that one. Got the power in his hands, fine, that's fair enough. I think Hakeem's going to respect the power, but Tukhugov's going to have a tough time with the grappling aspect. I think that's the issue. I think Tukhugov wants to get the fight to the ground, wants to stay on top, and that's it. But we've seen the conditioning side of things of Tukhugov. He can get a bit tired, and when he gets a bit tired, he starts to get a little bit lazy with the takedown attempts, technique. He doesn't turn the corner so much. He sometimes can be a bit short on the takedown attempt, maybe shoot from a little bit too far out. I think Hakeem here needs to be precise with his striking, be smart, don't stay in the pocket too much for Tukhugov to get the takedown, because he doesn't want to engage that striking, he wants to be smart, get a low center of gravity, pick away at him. I wouldn't go for thigh kicks, calf kicks. Tukhugov is the kind of guy you want to do calf kicks against, because they're there for the taking, because he's quite flat-footed. because he's ready to kind of burst off, and sometimes when he's moving, you can get those kicks in. Tukhugov here, he's going to throw big strikes, he's going to throw heavy kind of overhand looping shots to get you to bring your guard in to shoot down for the grappling aspect. I think I'm going to go with Hakeem here. I just feel like his striking's very good in the sense that he could possibly use counter strikes to really hurt Tukhugov, and especially when you start to hurt someone when you're failing the takedowns from getting hit. It does take you away from going for the takedowns a little bit. It puts you off because you think, I don't want to get hit again because he's just going to crack me over and over. Man, I'm going to go like a 29-28 for Hakeem here. I think you get a decision win, but man, like if Tukhugov can sort out the conditioning to stay on, to stay good for 3 rounds, he should be all right. But the Julio Arce fight was a great win for Hakeem. He's on a good win streak. Obviously, the Kyle Bochniak fight was a good example, a good fight for him back then. But yeah, I'm going to go Hakeem here, but I wouldn't be surprised if Tukhugov just blanketed him for 3 rounds. It can absolutely happen, but I think Hakeem's a great little addition to the roster, so I'm going to get impressed by his development so far. So I'm going Hakeem, bro.
This to me is one of the closer fights in the card to really pick.
Yeah.
I've loved what I've seen Hakeem after that initial loss. He got caught, it happens, but he's really kind of found his feet in his last 4 fights where he started to show the kind of promise that he had when he was in the PFL, and was kind of a commodity that people were kind of clambering to see come over at the UFC. Very skilled precision striker, picks his shots well, very fast hands, and has shown that he's got a good takedown defense. Arce got him down momentarily in that fight and had a little bit of time there, but for the most part he's shown that he's adept at stopping takedowns. And with Tukhugov, if these two stay standing, you've got Dawodu in that most of the time. You've obviously got the power of Tukhugov, which you have to be careful with at all spots, but he really throws from the hip. He doesn't. He's there to be countered with those shots. If he doesn't catch Dawodu one of those shots early on, now Danny Henry caught him, so it doesn't mean that Tukhugov can't. If he starts making a read on that, I still think he will start to counter Tukhugov really well. Tuhugov's going to look to throw shots to get it on the hips, and that's what's going to happen here. Tukhugov is a guy that, like I say, I don't want to say he's super dangerous on the feet, but you've seen that he's got power there. You've seen in the I think it was the Chavez fight away back that was years ago now, and then you had the Aguilar fight where he showed recently. You cannot take this guy not seriously in the feet because he does throw from the hip. If he catches you with one of those big strikes, then you could be in for a world of hurt. But he will probably get some momentarily takedowns in this one here. I think that he might have a little bit of top time. I think once it's back to the feet, and especially once it goes into later rounds, I think Hakeem's just his shot selection will come through. I think he will land more. He seems to have once he gets going, his output seems to kind of go up more through the fight, which is something I really like. Has to be careful, I think, with kicks, because I think Tukhugov, like you said, he is open to them, but I think that he could start to make a read on that and maybe get takedowns off it. It's a very close fight. I'm taking Hakeem via split decision. I think this could be very close. If Tukhugov wraps him up for majority of the rounds, which he could do, but not get anything off, then those striking battles are going to be what really decides the fight, in my opinion, if he can't get the fight to the ground. So I'm going to take Hakeem Dawodu to kind of extend his streak here to 5. This would be a big win here. Tuhugov's a dangerous opponent, but I've got me and Hakeem for the win there. Ketlen Vieira is facing off against Sijara Eubanks. Eubanks is jumping in here. She fought not last week, 2 weeks ago. LB 2 weeks, so she's got a third weight cut in a month, maybe.
Yeah, she's not cutting too much down to bantamweight though. That's the thing. That's why she went back up there.
Yeah. So she's supposed to fight. September 5th. Carl Rosa there pulled out, so she had a weight cut there. Then she fought September 12th, another weight cut there. Then she's flying over to Abu Dhabi. So in the space of 4 weeks, she's got 3 weight cuts. That's a little bit. That's a little bit iffy, especially with someone like Sijara who's had troubles making weight at points. Maybe not this division though. I bet on Julia Avila last time out. I think it's a good win. I think that what she did was, the fight was a complete role reversal how I thought it would go down. I thought that Sijara would be strong in the first round and she started to deplete 2 and 3, where it was actually the other way around, where she was actually strong in 2 and 3 and won the fight through that. So much respect to her for that. Vieira, she's coming off her first loss of her career. That's going to be a big thing here to try and see a rebound. How's she going to fight? Is she going to fight aggressive? Is she going to fight quite keep her cards to her chest here and see if she just fights kind of close in this one here? I think Sijara Eubanks has a decent kind of chance in this one here. I think that she looked good in that fight against Davila. She's obviously probably not. She's just going from fight to fight. That helps some fighters sometimes, is having that. Vieira is the bigger girl, 5'8". She's a little bit of a tank at 135. She's shown that she can be very dominant on the ground. Eubanks is a black belt, I believe, down there. You've seen in her last fight, when she can go on a top position, she can pin you down, she can keep you there for the majority of the fight. And that's something that in the past we've seen Vieira do. We've seen on her debut, we've seen against Katzengano. And then she just got knocked out with a beautiful shot against Irene Aldana, and she's one of the more slicker strikers in women's MMA. She's very, very good, very slick with her striking. So it happens there. Again, I think this could be another close fight. I'm not writing off Eubanks, but I'm going to pick Ketlen Vieira via kind of close decision, but she might win like a 29-28 there for me.
Yeah, I'm swaying towards Vieira as well. I do try to fade off on Eubanks because I just don't rate her too much. I think that she's going to have a difficult time getting Vieira down because Vieira's like a strong girl at that weight class. Yeah. And you got to remember, Eubanks isn't, say, natural weight class is bantamweight, but it's only because she's not good at cutting weight down to featherweight. She's not good at cutting those extra 10, so she's sticking to bantamweight. It's a more comfortable weight class for her. Vieira's a big girl cutting down to that weight class, and she's strong, like you said. The Katzengano one is a good example because Kat's not a small one, a 135er as well, and she's a big 135, and she's got a solid wrestling background. Katzengano, her wrestling is legit. She's got good wrestling techniques and movement. So when she was able to get control, but when she was able to manage and overpower Katzengano in stages, I think Katzengano would be able to beat Sijara Eubanks. So, and the thing with Ketlen Vieira is, she can't. I don't think she should change her style of fighting because her style of fighting suits her to the ground. Aggressive, heavy hits. It's just the way she fights. That's what got her to the dance. So I can't see her changing. She's a good thing. She's had 9. It's the best part of basically 9-10 months off since that KO finish, which was a great thing to do. You didn't see her jumping in too soon. I know COVID probably delayed her return, but at the same time, I'm super happy she had that break. I don't think Sijara Eubanks got any power in her hands to really cause Vieira problems. So I kind of go Vieira on this one. I feel that she's got the power, the aggression, and she'll have Eubanks going on the back foot. I kind of bully her around a little bit. I think Sijara will have a bit of a tough time kind of trying to get the takedowns. She'll definitely go for them, but I think she'll get snuffed out by Vieira, and it'll just be a nice kind of solid win for her to return back to.
Moving on, we've got in the flyweight division with Kai Kara France against Brandon Royval. I think this was a really good fight as well, actually. I think it's a well-matched fight with two guys who are very kind of different skill sets, but both very dangerous within those skill sets. You've got someone like Kai Kara France, a veteran of the sport, coming in. I think this is fight number 30 on his record. Brandon Royval, this is 15-16 fight. This is his first fight, becoming a full-time fighter because he dropped in this last time out, which I love. I thought it was a great story. It's been over Tim Elliott. I would have thought that he had all the tools to win it, but I did say, like, Brandon Royval is so good with his submissions that he can catch you with a lot of different stuff. He's very tricky with his grappling game. On the feet, I don't see much, so I can see a big advantage for Kai Kara France in this one here. But when you look at Royval, he's massive for this division. He's 5'9". He's got a big height advantage here over Kai Kara France. But strike-wise, I think that Kai Kara really mixes up, really picks his shots well, has far more output. I think Royval's very hittable. But I'm a little bit worried for the simple fact that Royval's been in camp probably every single day. He's been in the gym every single day here, and he could start to make some serious improvements now. And the gym that he's at, Elevation Fight Team, he can go hard for 15 minutes. And in some spots, Kai Kara France can maybe fade off a little bit towards the end of the fight. So it could become close later in the fight. But I actually think Kai Kara France can mix up. I think he can get some takedowns if he needs to be. But then if you do that, you're kind of playing at Royval's game where he could catch you with something. And during the whole entire fight, 15 minutes, he could catch him with anything. So I'm going to edge Kai Kara France with just an output performance. I think he lands more. But I'm not writing off Royval with the skills that kind of he could start to really develop now that he's just training full time, which is obviously going to help. And the camp that he's at, that's going to become like good tenfold. So I like Royval a lot, but I'm going to pick Kai Kara France here, even though I think the bet line's a little bit high in my opinion. I'll talk about that a little bit, but Kai Kara France for the win for me.
Yeah, I like the matchup, but you got to remember as well, bro, like you say, Royval's got that full-time training camp, first time in doing it. Hopefully he hasn't burnt out too much doing the full camp, because it'll be a shock to the body, training full-time, whereas opposed to it was a little bit broken up with his job. Kai Kara France, as we said before, coming from the camp with the boys, with Izzy and everyone, bringing up that peakness together, that training together, growing, developing together. You've got that momentum, and to be honest with you, Izzy is going to be like a beacon for those boys. They're going to be looking at him, and it's going to have an effect on those guys, like a positive effect, that is. He's done all, the fight against Tyson Nam. I thought that was a good fight for him, because Tyson Nam, as we've seen, devastating power, veteran of sport, very smart man, and he fought a smart fight. The Paiva fight, obviously we saw Paiva come into his game there, but that's because Paiva's a great, I rephrase that, he's a very good striker, found his range target. Brandon Royval is not a great striker, so for me, Brandon's got to get the takedowns. Kai Kara France is pretty decent with the footwork. He's pretty good at coming in and out, moving around. He's often, when you see, like you say, Will, he mixes up his striking, which is very true. He mixes up head shots, body shots. He doesn't just sit there the same combinations. He mixes the combinations up. And I feel like you say, Will, I'd be tentative to go for takedowns, because Brandon could slap a guillotine on in a heartbeat, like you say, Will, and he'll be thinking submission straight away. I personally wouldn't want to have that on my mind so I'd be sitting there thinking, nah, I'm going to stuff takedowns. I'm not going to go for the takedowns. What I'm going to do is I'm maybe go for calf kicks and throw boxing. I'm going to box most of it. And Kai Kara France tends to like to throw a lot of boxing kind of stuff, like to throw his hands. I feel he should be able to keep Brandon on the end of his punches, use the footwork, circle away, and keep Brandon from getting the fight to the ground. Because if it does go there, that's where you start to see the chinks. And I think Brandon's a far stronger opponent on the ground than Kai Kara France is. And I think Kai Kara France could maybe get caught there. Keep it standing, keep it on the feet, pick him away, and just keep using the footwork. I think Brandon, I know we got to win against Tim Elliott, and I feel like I know we beat Tim, but don't push him up too quick. I think it's a great matchup, but I think Brandon's got to fight it a bit short here in this matchup, bless him. And I think Kai Kara France should go away with the victory, should use the striking, circle off, get a nice decision win, doesn't matter, gets a win for the team, nice bit of a confidence boost, and away you go.
So moving on to our first title fight here, it's for the vacant UFC light heavyweight title, which has been completely dominated for the last 10 plus years by John Jones. It's going to be weird to see a light heavyweight champion without kind of John Jones kind of having it around his waist here. But you've got two guys that are going to be chomping at the bit to get this opportunity here. You've got Dominick Reyes against the Polish power and Jan Błachowicz, as a guy that's his career resurgence is actually pretty spectacular. Where he's kind of came from, he was down in a few spots and he's really picked himself up, really started to believe in his power, and he's really started to put people out. So how do you see this first championship fight going down? Because it's an absolute banger. It's such a good, well-matched fight. I'm looking forward to seeing the two kind of contrasting styles of this one here. And how do you see it going?
I'm super happy for Jan Błachowicz. They got the title fight, he got the title shot opportunity, because, the way things were going, with John Jones about, you kind of thought, they're just going to give the rematch to Dominick Reyes, and then Jan's going to have to fight someone else, and, risk losing it all. That was the problem, you kind of, because you thought, I would have felt it was fair to give Dominick Reyes a rematch. I would not have objected to it. I wouldn't have had a problem with it. But I kind of was like, I'm glad Jan's got it. Because, man, Jan Błachowicz, 37 years old. Don't know how much more he's going to keep going with this sport. But getting the title, obviously, will do a lot of good. He's been hyping up Joanna quite a lot. JJ's been, obviously supporting, backing him up, obviously talking on press with him, and she's obviously a bit of a media star there, but she's a star in Poland. She's a big hit in Poland. She's a lot of TV work, it seems. So she's obviously flying the flag for him on stuff like that, and that's beautiful to see. And that will give you a lot of confidence for Jan Błachowicz, because, you know, I'm sure Dominick Reyes is the favourite in a lot of people's eyes, because Dominick Reyes is, you know, tall, long, rangy, wicked little striking, caused John Jones problems. Again, with John Jones, it's like, John Jones, I feel he makes fights closer than it should be, and I still feel that way. You know, I still feel like he makes him too close, but he's come along. What's that? He's been fight game 6 years. Dominick Reyes, and John Jones, I think, had the belt way well before that. It's crazy, absolutely mental. Dominick Reyes looked good. I think he's got wicked striking, head kicks, movements, but he's fighting a guy, Jan Błachowicz, who's turned things around. Like you said, Will, he lost a fight to Thiago Santos, which a lot of guys lost. Thiago's fighting Glover Teixeira next, isn't he? So
yeah.
That for me, I think that's a nice fight for Thiago to come back to. Gets a win. I think they throw him straight in the next title fight, in my opinion. I think Thiago Santos gets next shot at the belt. But, you know, we had those fights, Jan Błachowicz, you know, the start of his UFC career, there was a lot of questions about, is he good enough? Turned it around. We lost the Thiago fight since, stopped Corey Anderson. Great little stoppage, that. Great little win for him there. This Jacare fight and the Luke Rockhold fight. To be fair, I know that 185 has come to 205, but you got to remember, Jacare's a title fighter, fighting for the title, former like Strikeforce killer. Luke Rockhold, same again. They're not nobody middleweights. They were top echelon middleweights going up there, and to do what he did was superb. You know, he didn't falter, he didn't flinch. He did fantastic. I fought in the fights. I think that this fight is going to be a great little battle. I think Jan Błachowicz tough, but I kind of see Dominick Reyes taking the victory in this one. And the reason why I see it is I feel like he's just a more athletic kind of fighter, and I think he's got his speed is a factor. Jan Błachowicz has got power in his hands. He can hit heavy, but I feel like Dominick Reyes might just be out of range for that. I feel like Dominick can manipulate the space between them a lot better. And, you know, if Jan can close the distance, maybe try and get the fight to the ground, he might have a bit of success on that one. But for 5 rounds, Dominick Reyes shows he's got good conditioning, especially in the John Jones fight. Spit that out again there, folks. I feel like he's got good conditioning 4 to 5 rounds. I think Jan Błachowicz has got a tough fight. I love Jan a bit. I've been just dead happy to see the way he's turned it around. And I think you're going to see a Dominick Reyes win, and then you're going to see Thiago Santos beat Glover, and then Thiago Santos, Dominick Reyes. Oh my goodness, those kicks by the pair of them. Oof, I can't wait for that fight. But I'm jumping the gun. I know I am, but I'm going to pick Dominick Reyes. I think he might be able to stop Błachowicz, if I'm honest with you. I think he might be able to catch him with that little cheeky, sneaky left hand there, just down a little angles, pop it down the pipe. So I'm going to go Dominick Reyes on it for a stoppage here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say I wrote him off, but when you kind of look at Jan Błachowicz from the early part of his UFC career to where he is now, he kind of seems like a totally different fighter. Ever since, I think the fight that really put me onto that was actually the win over Jimmy Manuwa. Yeah, because he lost to Manuwa beforehand, and he lost. That was a bad fight. It wasn't a great fight, but the second fight was like, Błachowicz has decided, right, I'm going to get in here and I'm going to strike with you, I'm going to throw these power shots and not let you put me against the cage and so on. And that's what happens in a few of the fights beforehand, like the Gustafsson fight, like you get taken down. So since that fight with Manuwa, to me, is when, and in saying that, he's come, before that he had 2 wins over Cannonier, Devin Clark, but that fight against Manuwa, to me, he just looked a completely different fighter, looked dangerous. And it looked like he'd improved his hands exponentially. He's always had big body kicks, big low kicks, but now he's shown he had big power in his hands. And he's been on a streak, and he's taken out some great names. And I mean, I didn't think he was going to get it done against Corey Anderson. I thought Corey's wrestling was going to be too much, but he's shown, and he keeps going on about his Polish power. He's shown that he's got it. Yeah. He's shown if he lands anything remotely clean, he can put you out. You can take those wins, and I've seen people say regarding Jacare and Rockhold, but they're championship level fighters. That's a guy in Rockhold who held the belt Jacare, who's one of the top 3 guys at middleweight, was for a long time. Thiago Santos in there gave a good account of himself. Just he was in his pomp at that point, right there before he got injured and so on. Very dangerous striker in that aspect there. But then you're looking at the kind of athlete in Dominick Reyes. The one thing that's kind of thrown me off is Dominick Reyes seems to think he's entitled to this title.
Yeah.
He fought close with John Jones. To me, John Jones still won that fight. I watched it twice in the last week, and I still don't see a path. I still just don't see where it's clear for Dominick Reyes. And like I say, they always say that it needs to be clear against the champion, which is kind of BS bullshit, if we're being honest with you. He fought a good fight against one of the best fighters of all time, if not the best fighter. But to me, it looks like John Jones has kind of got bored of this division because he's cleaned it out once, he's cleaned it out twice. He could have fought Błachowicz. He really could have fought Błachowicz because he was in the crowd when he knocked out Corey Anderson in that main event, so there was a new challenge. But it seems to me he just wants a new challenge. He was done with light heavyweight. And the guy that you're going to throw in there is Dominick Reyes because he did fight so close against John Jones. But the one thing, I just don't like how entitled he is. But as a fighter, really good athlete, really good feet, really feints off well, really angles off well, can pick his shots well. Saw that in the OSP fight, was one of the first spots I seen that. And obviously there was fights before that where he was showing that he could knock people out and so. But fought a really close fight with Volkan, which I always think is a good thing because Volkan is, in my opinion, one of the tougher guys in that division. Then he had the Chris Weidman coming up, and like that's the exact same spot as where Jacare and Rockhold was. He had a former champion moving up to 205, and Weidman is done. Weidman is, in my opinion, done. Actually, I think those 3 guys, Jacare and Rockhold and Weidman, should really think about what they're doing, sticking around in the sport for too long. But an athlete, very fast, very well-rounded, can get some takedowns you've seen in the past, got some submission skills, but he's got some big power. But if he can be pushed and Jan can go kind of blow for him, I think Jan's live in this fight. And to me, when I look at the betting lines here, Błachowicz is plus 225. I don't think he should be that high an underdog. I think he's more of a live fighter in this fight than people give him credit for. I think that he can land some power shots. I think maybe the overconfidence of Dominick Reyes, plus he's coming off his first loss. In his mind, he might not think he's had that loss because he thinks he won.
Sean O'Malley.
Yeah. At least he's not as bad as Sean O'Malley. But I'm actually going to take a stab at Jan Błachowicz in this fight, and I think he's going to win by knockout.
Nice.
I think that even though Reyes has shown that he's got a chin, he can take a shot. I'm going to believe in the Polish power here and say that. Could you imagine? Tell you what, if you had told me, when did he lose that fight to? Let me see.
And he did not look good.
No, I think it was the Corey Anderson one in a way back.
Yeah.
Because that first Corey Anderson fight, he blew his load really badly. If you would have told me, even if you would have told me in October 2017 when he beat Devin Clark that 3 years later, less than 3 years later, that Jan Błachowicz would have the UFC title around his waist, or he was even fighting for a UFC title, I would have probably laughed in your face, if I'm being honest with you. But since then, his wins and his performances have looked great. I think he's accumulated like 6. Let me see, what's it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bonuses in that spot. So he's taking more risks, being more entertaining. I think he's got a guy that can be entertaining with here with Reyes. I think they could go blow for blow a little bit here. I think the more well-rounded kind of overall striker is actually, and maybe even fighter, is probably Reyes. But I'm going to believe in the Polish power. I'm going to believe in Jan Błachowicz bringing another title back to European shores here. I think that he knocks out Dominick Reyes in the first couple of rounds, so I think that he's going to do it. But if it goes kind of late, then maybe the overall kind of just the athlete that is Dominick Reyes, and I think he's been 5 rounds. I'm not sure. Has Błachowicz been 5 rounds maybe in his Polish days? No, so this is his first 5-round fight. And actually, that's a lie. He went with Jacare, didn't he? So, yeah, and he really did well in that one, just kind of keeping the pace and landing in that fight. I'm going to take Jan Błachowicz knockout. That's where I'm going with that one there. And the main event of the night, I mean, it's just a really good fight. You've got the precision and the accuracy against the sheer brute and strength of his strikes. It's Israel Adesanya, the reigning defending middleweight champion, against the number 1 contender, the undefeated Boashinha, the racer, Paulo Costa, who you've got the slim build of Izzy, you've got the absolute jacked Paulo Costa, who's probably failed numerous drug tests in the past couple of years, but it's an absolute tank when he's in there, and he is one of the guys I absolutely love watching fight. I'll start off with Paulo Costa because he is the challenger here. He is 13-0, come off wins. I mean, his last couple of wins, I'm not really taking too much away from Johnny Hendricks. He was kind of done at that point. The UFC knew what they were doing at that point there. They had a guy up in his division, had a belt around his waist. They threw him with Uriah Hall, who the UFC have always tried to promote highly, in that one there. And he just, he picked them apart. He absolutely picked them apart. And body shots, his body shots, I think, are one of his best weapons. He absolutely rips to the body in a way where he throws there, and you can see the shots absorbing it. It just it hurts my stomach just with the way he's throwing, but he will mix it up there, and he's not afraid to go toe to toe with you guys. Who do you see going toe to toe with Yoel Romero? Literally throwing strikes back and forward at one another. Nobody's did it with Yoel Romero, and he did it for 15 minutes. People were crying robbery in that fight, and I've no idea. It was close, don't get me wrong, but I think Paulo Costa was absolutely the guy that deserved to get his hand raised in that fight, and I'm not saying that because I bet on him. I did bet on him in that fight, but when I watch it back, I still think Paulo Costa did enough to win that fight. You've got obviously you've got Adesanya here, who is he has precision over power, and he's always said that he's not a one punch kind of knockout power, but his precision is so good that when he hits you with those precise strikes, he can knock you down. You've seen that in the Gastelum fight there. But even though I'm kind of jumping all over the place because I'm so excited with this fight, but Costa, when you look through his kind of UFC record, even for a big guy who you would think would gas out, and he kind of can a little bit, he throws a shit ton of output, and he will, like I say, he doesn't mess about. He will go to the body, he will push against the cage, he will throw up top. And I mean, I even think his takedown defense in that fight against Yoel Romero was something really impressed me, because Yoel Romero, obviously his wrestling's decent. He kind of jumped back up to his feet fairly quickly, but he has, in my opinion, he's got 10 minutes to do this here, because Adesanya is such a cultured striker that eventually, if he doesn't land those power shots, Izzy is going to pick him apart here, and he's going to start to really just bust him up. And you've seen that when those big strikes landed, Romero landed some big ones, Adesanya, his position and overall output will just start to take effect here. The 5 rounds is a big thing for me for Boashinha. I think if it goes on there, Adesanya's output is just going to absolutely start killing him in those later rounds. But I don't think Izzy's out of there even in the first couple of rounds. I think he's going to keep... And this has annoyed me in the last couple of days that I've seen. And this is why I don't go on social media so much. It's like, Izzy Adesanya runs and he does that. It's like, so you really want to stand there and throw leather with a guy like Yoel Romero, who obviously a majority of people hit harder than him, but you've seen when Izzy lands, he can have devastating knockouts. You've seen in the Robert Whittaker fight, if you get too aggressive, he can counter you into oblivion, can hit you with so many different strikes. But he can also take a shot as well. Look at the Gastelum. Look at his face at the end of that fight. He took a lot of damage in that fight there, and he showed his will there when he came out in the 5th round and says, "You're not going to beat me." That's next level shit in my opinion. That's such a strong mental positive thing that you're not going to lose this fight. So you have to put this guy out, because he never thinks he's out of a fight with his striking, with his accuracy, his just his timing, his footwork, his intelligence of his strikes. I could go on about Israel Adesanya all day long. To me, this fight plays out that if Costa can land in the initial part of this fight, I think he can definitely hurt Adesanya, get him out of there. I think as this fight goes on, I think that Adesanya can really start to pick him apart. I'm not saying Izzy can't do that early as well, because he absolutely can, because he's a more varied striker, he will use more tools, and once he's got you on the back foot and he's got your timing and he can see what's coming, you're in big trouble here. So as much as I hate doing this, I'm picking against Paulo Costa because I've been on him so much in his UFC tenure, and I believed, actually, if you probably made this fight probably
before the bicep tear.
Yeah, I would probably be on the Paulo Costa side, but when you watch it, I just think the slickness of Adesanya on the feet, and if he doesn't get caught, I think he just puts a little bit of a beating on Paulo Costa. So I've got Israel Adesanya. I actually think he can get him out of there late on in the fight. So I'll take Izzy via TKO rounds 4 or 5.
Yeah, it's a tremendous fight. You got the rawness of Paulo Costa. Just reminds me of kind of young Chuck Liddell in a way. You know, the ferocity of wild barrages of strikes, like when Chuck smashed Tito against the cage, and Tito was blocking the punches, but even the power of Chuck was able to break him with the punch and power just through the blocks. And Paulo Costa does that as well with guys. They block shots, but he hits so hard it kind of ricochets through. And then you've got the elegance of Israel Adesanya, who's now starting to really, like the Robert Whittaker one, you know, Robert kind of lunging in with those strikes, and it was just angle off pop lands. And you know, that's the thing, the power from Adesanya's shots are sometimes given to him by the opponent because they come lunging in, like you say, and that momentum, that power coming forward, he just has to hit you with a 50% shot because it's amplified by you charging in. And that's what you're looking at right here. You've got a Paulo Costa who's going to have to be patient with coming in. I think we might see a little bit of a smarter Paulo Costa. He might even go for a takedown against Izzy, which we've seen Izzy do great takedown defense in, but Paulo Costa might throw in takedown attempts. But you've got to be, with Paulo Costa, he needs to get Izzy against the cage. That's the thing for me. I'm thinking, well, he's not going to be able to swing like that against the guy in the middle of the ring because I think Izzy's going to be out of the way of it. Izzy does get hit, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he doesn't get hit. Kelvin proved that and showed it. I think Paulo Costa will need to double up on his strikes. So whether he's thrown the jab or straights, he needs to maybe double up on them to land the second shot or following shot after that. And Izzy's been in the UFC, he's been grand. He's been in MMA, he's been good. But we've seen Izzy get stopped outside of MMA. He's fighting a guy in Paulo Costa who's just got that freak power, and he throws crazy combinations with power in each shot. I'm going to sway towards Paulo Costa on this one, even though it's a tough one because I've got my head says Izzy, but inside of me I'm going raw Paulo Costa in my heart. I'm like, God, just that crazy barrage of punches because I think Paulo Costa only has to hit him once to really hurt him. And then the barrage can come. But they're saying again, if he's overconfident and overextended on his shots, Izzy can do the same thing where he just clips him with a hook and away he goes. The kicking game of Izzy might play a part of this as well. You know, throwing the head kicks is a thing in Izzy's arsenal there, where if he throws the head kicks, that makes Paulo Costa block with the arms. What it does is it stops Paulo Costa being able to throw the punches because he has to block the kicks. The kicks to the arms takes a toll on the arms because you're blocking with your bicep and your forearm. They get a bit sore through the round. The kind of pop comes out away from your strike, and so you might see him do that. In the Uriah Hall fight as well, Paulo Costa got chased down. Uriah did good in that fight with the jabbing. He was doing first round. He picked Izzy apart, but like you said, they said, "Oh, Izzy's gonna run." Yeah, I would run if I was Izzy. But one thing that you'll find is you can't run for 5 rounds. It's an exhausting movement running back, and this is where we saw Uriah Hall. He did the same thing. He ran but got tired, slowed down. And Paulo Costa would just walk it down. And then when he gets in, that's when the blitz comes. And that could happen here. I think Izzy can't run for 5 rounds backwards. He's good at footwork, but he can't run for 5 rounds. I think if I'm Paulo Costa, I save my power, save my punches, walking down until I'm close enough, and then let the barrage off. Then keep walking and keep it going. I'm going to go Paulo Costa. I think he could pull out a little one, rabbit out of the hat. Paulo Costa stoppage, but I think it's going to be incredible, that fight, and I'm so goddamn excited for it.
So we're going each other in a couple of championship fights. It's going to be interesting to see how we play out in that one. But yeah, I am looking forward to those couple of fights. I'm not going to be watching live. Well, you know what? I actually might go to bed and actually go up and watch the Adesanya fight.
Just the one fight, yeah.
Might go up at 4, because it's getting harder to kind of stay up late now. So, and I am kind of get myself into going to bed and not kind of killing the rest of my Sunday off by doing that. So yeah, that's our picks here for this event. We'll go into the betting side of things. I have one bet right now. I'll talk about that in a second, but I'll kind of quickly go through some lines that are kind of interesting. You've got the William Knight fight against Aleksa Camur there, where William Knight's actually an underdog. He's plus 155. I think that people are going to be a little bit attracted to that one due to kind of recency bias and how dominant he looked in his last fight. So people, I think, might be on that spot there. So that might bet the line down a Camur, which might turn into be a good fight in that one there. Obviously, we're just talking about the main event there. You've got Adesanya against Costa. Like, Costa is plus 150. That is really appealing, even to someone like me. Like, if I was on the Costa side, I think you need to bet that fight or bet that number. I like that number being around about plus 140, plus 150. I think that's where I got him against Romero. I could be a little bit lower actually, but like, I can see people betting Paulo Costa and bringing the Israel Adesanya line down. So for someone like me who's picking Adesanya, that could very easily become a bet for me later on in the week. And one of the things I'm looking at that fight is Adesanya in round 4 or 5 or decision, because I don't think he takes him out initially in the first 10, 15, but he could really pick him apart in the last 2 rounds, and then he could get the decision victory there. So that's something I'm looking at personally. Jan Błachowicz is like plus 225. To me, I'm like, I don't understand why Reyes should be minus 265 in that spot. So to me, that's off. I see value anything over 175 actually. I think I capped it plus 150 actually. So anything over plus 150, in my opinion, I think there's a lot of value in Błachowicz. So I think I maybe have to throw a little bet on that there and see how that goes, because I think the line is off. My one bet that I have so far is Ľudovít Klein, who I was talking to John before we come on here, and I've won a couple of NFL bets recently, and I had the Seattle Seahawks. They were playing at 1:30 last night. I managed to stay up and watch the Chiefs beat the Chargers, which John's already talked about, which wasn't great for him. But I went to bed, but I made sure to set my alarm because I had 2 bets riding. I did not want to cash out. I thought the Seahawks were going to win, and I got up around 4 a.m. I think it was. Checked that they won. I was like, phew. Then just had a quick look at the betting MMA lines, and I wasn't sure whether his line had been released yet in the UK. I knew it had been in America, and he was plus 150 over here in the UK, and I was like, right, I'm in, because I already watched the fights. I'd seen the spot that I like. I thought it was. I do favour Young probably slightly as probably a betting favourite, but I thought anything above plus 110, plus 115, I thought there was value in Ľudovít Klein. So plus 150. I was inclined to kind of play that, in my opinion. I think it could be a very close fight. I think he's got more kind of powerful techniques that could stop the fight there. So I took the shot there on Ľudovít Klein. So that's my one and only bet. But there is spots I like. I like Adesanya if that line comes down. I like him late in the fight. I kind of like Espino to parlay him up if I can find a parlay piece. It's a little bit harder.
What is he? What's his odds?
He is minus 275 here in the UK. I like him in that spot.
What's Riddell?
Minus 320. So I would like that lower personally myself. So I'll probably be staying away from that one. But like, even if you've got a good read on the Dawodu Tukhugov fight, it's a pick'em. So you could get some decent value if you like a spot there. But outside of that, I mean, there's Jake Matthews minus 720, which is that's like plus 500 on Diego Sanchez. But you never know. Like, if Diego was to catch an illegal blow, or he could milk that again, or he'd be smart and then get that. So who knows? But like I say, I've got that spot there, and there's a couple more that I like. So. If you want to come and ask me what my bets are at the end of the week, then by all means just come on Twitter, and I'll probably get back to you at some point. It might be Monday morning next week. Who knows? But that's this week's picks, predictions, bets out the way. We're back next week for Holly Holm against Aldana. Just having a quick glance over that card. Not strong. There is fights I'm looking forward to seeing. Fighters I'm looking forward to seeing, but. Hopefully we'll kind of start to see it pick up in the next kind of couple of weeks with some of these Fight Island cards. So for myself and John, hit that subscribe button. We thank you very much for watching there. Leave your favourite picks, your favourite bets, your favourite whatever it may be for this card, your opinions, your thoughts. We'll get back to you as soon as we can, but just hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up if you can, and we'll be back next week. Take care, enjoy the fights when they come around, and all the best.